What a repulsive way to make a living.
Hello everybody, thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing if you're subscribed. If not, please consider it, because obviously it helps the channel, and please comment on the choices I make in this book tag. This is a book tag called Rocking the Music book tag, and it was created by the Paper Traveller, who did a really good original video, and she got our records and she linked those records with some bookish questions. And the records are really interesting choices, and she's clearly got a very rocky taste, which is cool. But yeah, I think the questions are really good. And I was tagged by Crystal at Fiber Artsy, so massive thanks to Crystal for tagging me, and appreciate the reason why as well, because obviously you've noticed that music takes up a big part of my life, so it's obviously a nice one for me to do because my life is so music orientated. So these are really cool questions. There's only 10 questions or something. And here we go. The first question bounces off the album by the Beastie Boys called No Sleep Till Brooklyn. And it's name a book that kept you up. So the book I've chosen for this prompt is Rivers of London by Ben Aronovich. So this is the first in the Rivers of London series. It's really, really good. If you haven't read this, this was recommended to me a number of times by a few different people, but one person in particular kept recommending it, and eventually I got around to reading it, and I'm trying to read the whole series now, so some of them are on the shelf somewhere. I think they're over there. Yeah, fantastic series, but this one in particular really becomes really intense, and it's got a really good climax at the end, set at an opera house. And it's a really cool moment. I won't spoil it by telling you exactly what's happening, but he's chasing this demon, and it all gets really hectic in the opera house when they have this final confrontation. And you can get a hint of the kind of tone of that final scene by the American title of this book, which is Midnight Riot. So you can probably imagine how hectic it gets. But yeah, it's really good final part, and I couldn't put it down. I had to finish it before I went to bed. So that definitely kept me up. Rivers of London, Ben Aronovich. Second question, second prompt. So it bounces off the song Vacation by the Go-Go's. Great song. And it's what books would you take on vocation? What books would you take on vacation? So this is a more complicated answer. So what I tend to do when I go on holiday is I take a bunch of books, because I haven't got them at hand because I'm away. I like to have some possibilities, some potential books for me to get into. So I'm usually reading the book that I'm currently finishing, so obviously I'll take that with me anyway. But if I do finish it, and quite often I do finish a book when I first start on holiday, I usually take a number of things. So I'll take a book of short stories. So I always take short stories in case I just want to nip into something really quickly, and I know I haven't got time and I don't want to get too far into something, so I might nab that one quickly. So I might take a book of short stories. It's a good example of some short stories. Excuse for you to tell me what you think of Roald Dahl and his short stories. I've got a bunch of his books up there, and I want to do a Roald Dahl video very soon if I can, hopefully before the end of the year, if not early next year. And then I might take a classic. So I might take, well, I probably would take a classic, that's the point. So I'll take short stories, I'll take a classic in case I want to go into a classic. So I've got here to prompt some conversation on comments maybe. Lord of Light by Roger Zelazny. So that's a classic one that I bought because it's a classic. I mean, I did read some Zelazny when I was a teenager. I haven't read any for ages, but I've got this one to read. I've got a few of his others, like the doors of his, I think it's called The Doors of His Lamp Are Dangling Off His Face, I think it's called. Roger Zelazny. So Lord of Light is a classic, and I might take that as a classic, but I would take a classic. I'd also take a couple of I'd probably say one or two books that I was thinking of reading next. So some that were on my immediate TBR, and maybe something that I was kind of desperate to read and kept kind of pushed back, and it was getting on my nerves. I hadn't read it yet. So there's an example here, The Slaughtered Man by Cassandra Parkin, which is a book that keeps getting pushed back on my TBR, and I can't wait to read it. But for some reason, I'm waiting to read it. So clearly, I can wait to read it. And then, linked to that, I'm trying to read some J.G. Ballard at the minute. So that might be something that suddenly I get this urge to read a particular author, and I might stick one of those in the rucksack. So I usually take sort of 3 or 4 books with me when I go on holiday. So I've got a choice, because I'm always changing my mind. So that's my answer to number 2. Number 3 bounces off the classic Queen song, Another One Bites the Dust, written by John Deacon. And that's what's a book that you DNF'd? So I don't really DNF books. I usually either leave them for ages and then eventually finish them after a huge gap, or I slog through them and then punish myself. But so I haven't really got a lot of examples of that, but I will show you an example of something that I have left behind. So this is a book that I started a while back, and I've read a third of it, and I'm probably not going to read the other 2/3 for ages, really. But you know, it's not really necessarily because it's really bad. I've just got so much I want to read. So this is an edited anthology of 3, not quite novellas, but long short stories, edited by Robert Silverberg, called Threads of Time. So I bought this on a whim when I found it secondhand, thinking it might have some stuff I could put towards the time travel video that I've just done. But also, I mean, the authors are Norman Spinrad and Clifford D. Simak and Gregory Benford. So 3 incredibly famous and influential and good authors. So I'm sure it's fine. I've just read the Norman Spinrad, but I've read the Norman Spinrad story so far, which is all right. But I want to get to the other 2. And just in case Sean's watching, the Clifford Simak story in here is The Marathon Photograph. That's the story on here. So tell me what you think of that one. They're not very long, but I know that I've left that one for ages. So that's close to a DNF, but I will finish it. So not quite a DNF. It's a DNFSA. Did not finish straight away. Okay, so question number 4 bounces off the Jamiroquai song, Travelling Without Money, and that is a book in which you felt that you had travelled. So a book that gave you the feeling that you had travelled somewhere. So, I mean, I read a lot of science fiction and fantasy, so clearly there's a lot of contenders. But I think the one that is the most cosmic, if you like, the one that's the most out there, the one that makes you travel the furthest, and actually it's really immersive and it's brilliantly written. So I've raved about it before. Everyone raves about it, but I couldn't recommend this enough. Children of Time by Adrian Tchaikovsky. So this really did make you feel like you were among the stars, hundreds of thousands of years in the future. It's just beautifully done, and I really couldn't recommend this enough. And just a little nod actually to Mike from Fit to Be Read, that every time I think of this now, there's a voice that goes, "Children of Time. Is it We Remember, Children of Time?" I don't know, but yeah, he used that Billy Joel song in his book review, and I literally keep hearing that whenever I see the cover. So clearly, your songs have an effect on the viewers. So Children of Time is my idea of a book that took me somewhere, and I felt like I'd travelled a long way, and a long way into the future. Amazing book. Number 5, Jump by Van Halen. Amazing song, great band. A book that scared you or surprised you. Okay, so I'm going to go with, because I don't get scared much, I get creeped out, and there's some horror stuff I've read recently that's been uncomfortable to read, but scared is a strong word. But what I'm going to actually choose is a book that had a really massive effect on me when I was a a young teenager. So in school, we read this. We studied this in school, and it dramatically affected me. And I think it's one of the reasons why I got into fantasy. But it's quite horrific, but it's also quite sort of gothic and old. And Samuel Taylor Coleridge, The Rime of the Ancient Mariner. If you haven't read this, absolutely recommend it. It's really short, but it's quite long for a poem, but it's very short for a book, obviously. And it's just phenomenal. It's really powerful. And when I read it, it literally changed my concept of what you could read, really, and it just expanded my imagination no end. So, you know, a lot of things I've loved the most over my years of reading has been the things that expanded my imagination, and this is definitely a huge part of that had a massive effect. So it surprised me, and it scared me as well, because there's some bits of it that were really quite, whoa, you know, when it all gets hectic for the mariner, once he takes the seagull off his neck. So yeah, it's amazing, absolutely amazing. Rime of the Ancient Mariner. So I'm picking that one for that. And then number 6 is Back in Black. AC/DC, one of the best songs ever, from one of the best albums ever. Although my favourite AC/DC album, just thrown out there, is Highway to Hell, which is the one they did before that. But anyway, a book with a predominantly black cover. So quite a simple one. And for this, I'm kind of reminding myself I need to read this, and that's Jose Saramago's The Double. So I love this cover, but I do like his stuff. And again, someone else that definitely in the next few months you'll see a video about Jose Saramago as well, a Polish writer that writes really interesting stuff. Most famous for blindness, but once I've read a few more of his books, I want to do a video on him. But yeah, there you go, The Double. Have a look at that if you have it or have access to it. Question number 7 is Room for One More by Anthrax. So that is a book that you're excited to own or to read. So I've got a bunch of these. So on my TBR list is insane. It's huge. It's most of that. But let's have a look. So a while back I found Clara and the Sun secondhand, and I've heard nothing but good stuff about that, and I haven't actually read an Ishiguro book yet, but I've got about 4 of his books, so I need to read this one. This is one I'm most excited about reading first, by Ishiguro. And I've talked about this before, The Anomaly. I think that's come up on a few tag videos. This is something I really can't wait to read. It looks really interesting, about a plane that gets duplicated in the air, and both planes land, and all the people that are on the plane, all the passengers, they all are duplicated as well. Everything's duplicated, and the consequences of this duplication gets explored in it, and what it really means for everyone that obviously thinks that they are the real McCoy, but there's a double of them and all that sort of stuff. So it sounds really cool. And then I've now got Six of Crows, which I've heard a lot about, and again, I quite like small scale fantasy, like the Fafhrd and Grey Mouser and stuff like that, and I like the kind of idea of thieves and heists and that kind of thing, which I think is what this is. So if you read Six of Crows, tell me if you've read it. What do you think of it? That's definitely one I want to read. And I'm also really excited about reading Cage of Souls by Tchaikovsky, because I really, really like Adrian Tchaikovsky, as I mentioned a minute ago. And I bought this because I just read Children of Time, and I thought I need to read something else by him, and I haven't got around to it yet. So Cage of Souls. And I have my biography of Charles Adams that I got for my birthday that I really need to read, because I know I'm going to love that. But again, it's time, innit? So that's my response to that one. Question number 8. Calling Dr. Love by Kiss. So, best bookish relationship. So I have to go with possibly the obvious. It's a relationship that's been celebrated no end. And it really is such a beautiful relationship. The reason why it's a beautiful relationship is because of the context of what they're doing in it. the amount of hardships they go through, and the fact they keep bouncing back, and there's always the two of them together that are absolute soulmates. Goes beyond love. It goes beyond being brothers. It goes beyond all of that because they have to face something so awful together, and they go on this adventure together, and they're alone for most of it. Frodo and Sam from the Fellowship of the Ring. What an incredible relationship. And Sam is literally the embodiment of a best friend, and Frodo can't do what he needs to do without him. And that's what's so beautiful about their relationship. What was it? I can't carry the ring, but I can carry you. Eh? I can't carry the ring, but I can carry you. And then number 9, Space Junk by Wang Chung. Everybody Wang Chung. What book is taking up space on your bookshelf? So I think it's quite a nice question. And the reason why I've picked this one is because I've got tons of books. Obviously, it's taking up space on my bookshelf, but this is quite a funny one because I bought it because I was so excited to have it. But it's a bit stupid because I don't want to read it yet because it's part of a series that I'm only going to read once I've read the series, because this is the short story book that came out that relates to the Chronicles of St. Mary's, but I want to read all the other 12 books first, and I'm on book 8. Is book 8 there? Yeah, book 8 is there. Is it book 8? Book 8's there, and the rest is history. I really like these books, and I've championed them a few times, but there's 12 before I get to this, so why did I buy this? I don't know. So that's taking up shelf space. Question number 11 is the extra question that Crystal added, which is, what's your favourite rock and roll memoir? It's a brilliant question. And I'm going with is it my favourite band? I think it's my favourite band. XTC. Songs and Stories. This is really cool because it breaks down each song, and it talks about how they recorded it, who did what, any complications with it, any changes while they're recording it. It's a really interesting book. And, I had my radar up for anything like that at the time, but it's probably quite hard to get now because these books are quite transitory, aren't they? But that's a great book. If you're into XTC, then Songs and Stories is a good shout. If you've never heard of XTC, check out the albums English Settlement, Oranges and Lemons, Nonsuch, Wasp Star, and if you want something heavier, then their punky end would be like Drums and Wires and Black Sea. Amazing band. Amazing band. And this is my favourite memoir, biography, whatever. So there we go. And then I'll do an extra question. Which book have you written that stars a bunch of musicians from different star systems forming a band and dealing with a interplanetary gangster and barely surviving the adventure? Wow, what a cheeky question. The Brown Yelp Gang, of course. That's really naughty, isn't it? Just twisting that extra comment just to advertise my book. Naughty. It's just naughty, isn't it? Shouldn't have done that. Shameless. And then who am I going to tag? So I'll tag. See, I don't know. So who am I going to tag? I don't know if MJ from Reading This Life has done this tag. Probably not. So I know that MJ loves Duran Duran. So she's talked about a few, but she's talked about Bowie as well. So yeah, I'll chuck MJ into the mix. And also, who else has talked about music on their channel? I'll tell you what, I did this Audible August event, and I'll tag 2 other people that did that, which was really lovely of them to do it. And that's Mark from Book Time with Elvis and Sean D. Standfast. So that's 3 people I'll tag to do this Rocking the Music book tag. Okay, brilliant. Thanks again to Crystal, and thanks for watching. See you later. Bye.